For that reason, only for that reason. Laura looked at Cloud with an expression that said she couldn't understand. Guilt, conscience. It was not easy for Laura to accept that he had abandoned his family for such regrettable reasons. Mom was right. The guy is too soft and cowardly. Yes, that's what my brother always said. You really look like your father. Cloud let out a weak laugh. Laura, realizing that her uncle's words were not a compliment, pouted indignantly. And me? I'm going to die because of you, man. That's not going to happen. I received a definitive answer: they would spare your life in exchange for denouncing them. Laura kept her mouth closed and stared blankly at Cloud. If it were up to her, she would ask herself, what's the point of living? Laura spent her entire life branded as a sinner. What would I do then? His uncle's betrayal still hurt him. But that couldn't be the case. As soon as he heard his uncle say that, even if he was rolling in dog excrement, this life was better and that his own was guaranteed, he felt great relief. So instead, Laura threatened Cloud with something improbable. They haven't captured my mother yet. If he gathers his forces and comes to rescue us, my uncle will pay the price for his betrayal. You haven't found out yet. I heard your mother was captured today. They're transporting her here, so you'll probably see her soon, Cloud said in a calm voice. In fact, that was why he had brought her, under the pretext that he wanted to see his niece. So that he could see his mother. Laura looked at Cloud, stunned, as if those words had shocked her. I expected him to deny it quickly, that it was a lie, a joke. But alas, it was true that Capella had been captured. Salt. The sinful Capella heir has just arrived. And just as Capella arrived at the prison, the iron door opened and a guard entered. He walked over and put shackles on Cloud. I knew he wouldn't try to escape, but the rule was that he was handcuffed on the way out. Laura walked through the dark corridors of the prison with mixed feelings. She was happy to see her mother again, but also scared. Considering her mother's usual temperament, she could have scolded her harshly, telling her that it was her fault that things had turned out like this. But he couldn't concentrate on his busy thoughts due to the noise around him. As soon as the face of the traitor Cloud heir appeared, the prisoners in each room began to scream and curse. Words like cowardly informant and traitor were funny, and from time to time there were crude insults like a guy who can't get enough even if you drink from him. Laura shivered and hid behind her uncle's sturdy back. Although it was not an attack on her, hearing everyone's blatant slander intimidated her, and the short hallway seemed to last forever. A moment later, they came face to face with Capella, who was being dragged away, screaming at the top of his lungs. Her entire body was covered in wounds, testimony to the fierce resistance she had put up against the men when they captured her. She said she had a spare curse-initiating device and they caught her. Cloud remembered the story he had heard, looking at the woman he once thought he knew well. He had secretly created and possessed another curse-activating device, unbeknownst to Byron. It occurred to him that perhaps the woman he knew, Capella, was just a small part of him. It was at that moment. When Cloud's gazes met, madness flashed in Capella's red eyes. Cloud, you disgusting traitor. Pay the price for your betrayal with your life. Capella broke free of the knights holding her with incredible strength, hard to believe came from such a delicate body, and ran towards Cloud, holding on to the weapon she had camouflaged as a hairpin. At that moment, Cloud did not dodge his attack as he rushed towards him. No matter how fast he moved, he could have easily dodged it if he wanted to since he had no formal training in martial arts. But he couldn't help it, because his niece was standing behind him. If he dodged the attack, it would be Laura who would take the full brunt of Capella's furious attacks. The sharp blade stabbed into Cloud's chest with great force, and when he pulled it out, hot blood began to gush out like a fountain. It's a weapon. Take it off now. The terrified knights ran towards Capella and grabbed her. Meanwhile, Capella was laughing like crazy. Uncle, uncle, uncle. Laura, pale with surprise, tried to support Cloud, who was stumbling. However, his strength was not enough to support his heavy body, and he collapsed to the cold ground. Dude, come back to your senses. He tried to stop the blood from flowing from Cloud's wound, sobbing, but the blood continued to flow. Laura. Cloud was panting, as if in agony, as he called for his niece. If this were the last time, there was something I desperately wanted to tell him. You may not understand my actions, but I hope you remember this. That this guy really loves you. And I'm sorry. He struggled to express his true feelings. At that moment, what he regretted most was Laura. If only she had had a little more courage, stood up to Capella, and taught him well, wouldn't Laura have grown up to be a different person? He felt great regret. Uncle, no. Don't die, okay? Please, please. Despite his niece's desperate cries, Cloud closed his eyes, unable to overcome his heavy eyelids. Uncle. Laura, unable to get over the shock, collapsed and screamed. But his surprise did not end there. You can never punish me. Ha ha ha. It was because Capella, who had been laughing out loud, bit his tongue after saying these words. The cold stone floor of the prison quickly turned red with the blood of the two men. Before Laura, who was hiccuping with a bewildered expression, could even understand the situation, Capella's breathing stopped at a rapid pace. Laura crawled on the floor, her expression incredulous. Her dress was soaked in blood, but she seemed completely oblivious. Oh, why? Mother. Oh, mother. He caressed his mother's face, her eyes open and bloody, her lifeless body devoid of any trace of life. Mother, mother. It was incredible. Stay alone in this world. Everything that had held her together felt like it was falling apart. A hopeful story finally reached her ears as she cried for her mother, her mind going blank. He's still breathing. Call a doctor now. The night-examining Cloud took his pulse and shouted. She had lost her mother, and the betrayal she risked her life for failed. But still, a small hope arose that perhaps she was not alone in the world. Binka bit her nails nervously. This was because she had heard that Capella, Byron's subordinate, who had met and spoken to her just 2 days before and had received the poison, had not only been captured yesterday, but had also committed suicide in prison. If she had gone to Capella just a day later, wouldn't she have been caught too? It was a dizzying thought. I have to tell my father this news quickly. He looked around anxiously. The maid he had secretly met behind the prison had not shown up, even though the agreed-upon time had already passed. This time, he planned to pay her to disguise herself as a cleaner and enter the prison. Of course, he would have to silence her later. Binka shuddered for a moment as she remembered her first murder. Just yesterday, he had poisoned the dealer who had falsified his identity. He drank the drink mixed with a few drops of poison that she had received from Capella without thinking twice, clutched his chest in agony and died in a matter of minutes. Soon, one more person would have to be killed, and there was no way of knowing how many more would have to be killed. Thinking about it made her feel a little afraid, but she shook her head and shook away the distracting thoughts. Whoever he killed, it was all for his own future. It was something he couldn't afford to be weak-hearted about. At that moment, the maid who had promised to receive her appeared from afar. Here. Why are you so late? When Binka gestured for her to come quickly, the maid stopped, looked around, and then slowly approached her. I'm sorry. I was late because I had to do something else. Quick, give me the cleaning products and my identification. Here, take my money too. Binka took out a bag full of money from her chest and handed it to the maid. But she hesitated, not knowing what he was thinking, and refused to accept the money. Hey, I don't know why you're trying to go in there, but let's stop. If you get caught even once, things will get worse. I don't want to get involved in something so dangerous again. There was once when she was tempted with a large sum of money and let someone go to prison instead, although she knew it was dangerous, but no matter how much she thought about it, she still felt uncomfortable, so today she came out to refuse. Why now? After having received everything he wanted. If you were going to refuse, you should have done so from the beginning. Binka bit her lip with a disgusted expression. He needed to meet with his father immediately to discuss a plan, but how could he suddenly interrupt him?